stepping in as well.
Over the top. I mean, that was a full force shot to the temple. I mean, he's right now. So they wipe off his gloves, but you look at him like he's really feeling it right now. I mean, he probably has no idea where he is.
When I'm going to take your soul, and you're either going to give up or you're going to get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct, you just will never be a good fighter.
Likely that one big shot's going to land if the guy's not throwing other shots. So I thought with less artillery in the air, less bombs in the air, that the guy would have a chance to get to later rounds.
The final consequence is already locked in, and it's ugly because this night didn't just knock Jake Paul out, it detonated the illusion around crossover boxing, and I'm telling you right now, careers shifted and egos cracked before the canvas even cooled. So rewind with me violently, because how we got here matters more than the punch, because Joe Rogan was laughing ringside like he'd seen the ending in advance. And nah, this can't be real unless you admit everyone knew the moment a former Olympic gold medalist heavyweight stepped in that this was never a fight. It was a countdown, and if you're mad already, good, because there's something they're not saying yet, and it's coming.
Well, realistically, it's one of the craziest propositions of all time. You take a guy who just had a boxing match that looks like a sparring match with a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, and then you're gonna fight one of the absolute scariest knockout artists in the
I watched Rogan lean in next to Joshua and smirk like the book had already closed, because he said what nobody wanted to hear out loud, which is that real boxing doesn't care about hype or followers or narratives. And when Jake hit the canvas, the shock wasn't the fall, it was the confirmation, the sickening click of reality snapping shut. Because Jake usually dances with aging MMA legends and retired names, and suddenly he's staring at a two-time heavyweight champion with nuclear timing. And here's the part that should bother you, because Rogan said the result was never in doubt, and if that's true, then who let this happen, and why does it feel like someone wanted the lesson televised?
It's not just physical, it's psychological. And when you understand the psychological warfare, I did say to you that, Jake, what's going to happen? I'm going to see a time when I'm going to take your soul, and you're either going to give up or you're going to get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct.
After the fight, Joshua didn't whisper or soften anything, and that's where the temperature spiked, because he said the early knockout saved Jake from something darker, slower, uglier, and I don't think people heard what he meant, because he wasn't bragging, he was warning. He said if it dragged on, he would have taken Jake apart piece by piece, physically, mentally, emotionally. And listen close, because this is a time bomb line. When a champion says a clean finish was mercy, it means he knew exactly how bad it could have gotten, and I keep thinking, who pushed this matchup knowing that?
Because straight after the fight, I heard the question being posed to Joshua, will he now fight Fury? And then my first thought was, after what I've seen, who cares? After that, who cares if Joshua fights Fury? I like Anthony Joshua immensely, Spencer. Any exchanges I've had with him, I think he comes across terrifically well. But I fail to see where it's taken us, where it's taken him, other than hugely increasing his bank balance. You know, I really fail to see what this has done.
Well, it's done nothing, but he was going to fight in November, like I said, and he's just gone in there against Jake Paul. What has it done for his legacy? Absolutely zero. But it was, you know, he's earned a lot of money doing that. And he's going to go again, and he's going to fight possibly February, March, and then there's that Tyson Fury fight that's looming that could happen in September, whether Tyson Fury decides to come out of retirement or not come out of retirement. For Anthony Joshua, he's earned a hell of a lot of money. This is prize fighting, and that's what it's all about. And that's what he's done. And
then the world split instantly like a cracked jaw, because half screamed money grab and half whispered maybe Jake's ready. And I'm losing my mind because both sides missed the point, because Joshua isn't a test, he's a wall. Olympic gold world titles, years of elite violence, and Jake is still building credibility brick by brick. So when that right hand shattered the night and ended it, Simon Jordan called it a dark day, and you felt it. Because when broadcasters say the sport looks like a joke, it's not outrage, it's fear. And here's the thing, nobody wants to admit yet, this line doesn't get uncrossed.
earning more than Joshua. That apart, Spencer, 6 rounds to get Paul out of there. Reputationally, how does it leave AJ?
Well, thankfully it didn't go to points, because I think that would have been a disaster for Anthony Joshua. I think that he needed to get the job done inside the distance, you know, and he done it. Look, he could have done it at any given point. I think that he could have cut the ring off whenever he wanted to and got Jake Paul out of there. He took his time on that. He allowed Jake Paul to run around like a rabbit and throw the occasional shot from time to time. And I think he only landed 1 clean punch, didn't he, Anthony Joshua? And that was the one that broke his jaw in 2 places.
But I mean, you said, did you not, to us in this very studio the other day, he's got to get him out of there in round 1.
I did.
Otherwise, what are we seeing?
Exactly that, you know, and I think what we saw there was a little bit of entertainment, and that was pretty much it. But not entertainment that many people enjoyed, if I'm honest. I think that people wanted to.
Simon Jordan kept going later, and it got quieter and colder because he said these fights blur competition with social media entertainment and steal oxygen from fighters who earned it the hard way. And if you think that's just old man talk, you're not listening, because he pointed out Joshua has already done everything and doesn't need sideshow chaos to stay relevant. And here's teaser number 2, because if a man who's already won everything is still being pulled into this circus, then someone else is pulling the strings and they're not done yet. Not even close.
But this is a giant Olympic gold medalist heavyweight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is fucking
Here's
terrifying.
the thing that nightmares are made of.
And he's got that 1-punch nuclear power. 1 punch.
I heard the legacy talk, and it made my stomach turn because people asked what this did for Joshua, and the answer was nothing except a fatter bank account and a louder question mark. Because reputationally, if this went to points, it would have been a disaster and everyone knew it. So Joshua did what he had to do and ended it. But here's the paranoia creeping in, because when fights are framed as entertainment instead of danger, you start forgetting what happens when danger actually shows up. And tonight, danger showed up early and smiled.
Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul shared a ring. Your takeaways from the 6 rounds that we saw, presuming you watched?
I was impressed with Jake Paul. I thought that, following on from what we're saying, right? A few years ago, he was on Disney as a kid, acting up, and has decided to become a professional fighter. That takes balls, but he's obviously striving to be as good as he can be. You can see that in the way that he moves, the way that he is developed in how he's punching and performing. But to make a 2-time world heavyweight champion that's still live, you know, AJ's still got something about him, to make him miss in such an accomplished manner. All right, so at times he was jumping out and running around, but there were times when he was well in range and still making AJ unable to land a clean, solid shot. He deserves a lot of respect for that. And then the shot that actually finished the fight, that broke his jaw quite badly, didn't put him out. That shot he threw with serious intention has put a lot of professional heavyweights to sleep. He didn't go to sleep. He actually finished on his knees, didn't he? Laughing and spitting blood out of his mouth. So, like they say, like, it's a special type of crazy and a special type of brave to do it. But I actually, hats off to him, because he showed that he's developing some accomplished little skills in there to look after himself. The size difference is always going to fatigue him.
I know everyone will come with the idea that, well, AJ should just go in there 1 round and smash him to bits, and that should be it was a big ring, right? Perhaps he could have cut the ring off a bit better, but would I be right in saying that regardless of skill level, if you forget about that with the 2 for a second, if someone is on the back foot on their bike and doing what Jake was doing, it's difficult no matter who you are, no matter the kind of separation in skill level.
It's a big ring, and you've either got to run at him and look like a novice yourself, or just take your time and understand.
Rogan doubled down afterward, and if you blinked, you missed how ominous it was, because he called Joshua one of the most athletic heavyweights ever and said he moves like a middleweight trapped in a 6'6" nightmare. And that sentence alone should end crossover fantasies forever, because when speed and knockout power coexist, you don't get learning curves, you get endings. And I swear there's a 3rd reveal hiding here, because Rogan flat out said putting Jake or Logan in there makes no sense, and yet people are still talking like it's inevitable. Why?
Would be more of a mismatch than Jake Paul. You know what I mean? Because at least Jake Paul has taken boxing, or has trained with real boxing trainers in real boxes. Whereas Logan Paul, you know, he did that exhibition with Floyd, and Floyd's a little guy. Not saying a little guy can't thump, because Floyd really gave him some two pieces with no sides, right? But at the same time, you take his friend, Floyd's friend, Anthony Joshua, and get hit by him and see what happens. The same thing. Probably worse, because I think Logan, you know, he's a little taller than Jake. And because he's a little taller than Jake, he may think he's a little stronger than Jake. Which I don't know which one's true or not. I don't think it makes a difference. But because he may feel that way, he may want to go in there and try to bang it out with AJ. And if that happens, it's going to be a lot quicker. See, that 6 rounds it took AJ to finally catch Jake. It took that way because Jake was on that bicycle, moving, being elusive, trying to come in and then come out. He tried to do a very poor man's Alexander Usyk, right? And it didn't work for him. Logan ain't gonna do that. Logan's gonna come in throwing punches and bunches like he did with Floyd, trying to get him in there and, you know, do all this stuff. And what's gonna happen as soon as AJ lines him up, sets his punch, he's gonna hit Jake and he's gonna break Jake down.
Then Adam Booth stepped in, and this is where it got weird, because he actually gave Jake credit, and I didn't expect that, because he said Jake made Joshua miss at times, and showed real ring IQ, and that should feel hopeful, but it doesn't, because Booth immediately snapped it back to reality, and said once Joshua adjusted it was over, and that's the scariest part, because improvement didn't save him, and it won't save the next guy either, and tell me why this feels like a warning nobody's hearing. The Logan Paul whispers started immediately, and I laughed. And then I stopped laughing because analysts shut it down hard, saying it would be comedy for all the wrong reasons. Because Jake trains full time and still got caught, and Logan splits focus like it's a hobby. And here's teaser 4, because something about that conversation feels reckless. Like people are daring disaster to happen again. Because they said Logan wouldn't last a round, and instead of ending the talk, it fueled it. And that's when you know this thing is spiraling. They compared the brothers, and it hurt more than the knockout, because they admitted Jake actually took boxing seriously and earned basic professional respect, and that's supposed to be the silver lining. But listen to how thin that sounds when stacked against a shattered jaw and a laughing ringside legend. Because even in respect, there's a limit, and when analysts say Logan would make boxing look like a circus, they're not exaggerating, they're predicting, and predictions like that have a way of tempting fate. By the end, everyone tried to wrap it up neatly, and I refused, because they said 2 stories came out of this fight, and both felt incomplete, because either crossover boxing is killing the sport, or Jake deserves respect for stepping up. And I'm screaming because both can be true and still end badly, because skill, experience, and real power always win, but the bill always comes due somewhere else, and nobody's talking about who pays it when the camera's shut off. I keep replaying that laugh, Rogan's laugh, because it wasn't cruel, it was resigned, like watching gravity do what gravity always does, and that scares me more than outrage, because resignation means expectation, and expectation means this wasn't an accident, and if this wasn't an accident, then there are meetings and contracts and nods we never see, and I don't like where that trail leads, not one bit. You think this is over because the bell rang and the jaw broke and the checks cleared, but nah. This can't be the end because the language changed afterward, the tone shifted, the way people talked about mercy and nightmares and inevitability, because when a sport starts talking like that, it's bracing for impact. And I swear there's a name we haven't heard yet that's about to get dragged into this mess, whether they want it or not. Everyone keeps asking what's next like. That's the safe question, but the real question is who benefits from pretending this was normal, because normal fights don't feel like warnings and normal knockouts don't sound like confessions. And I'm telling you right now, something is still unfolding behind the scenes. Someone's lying by omission, and when it breaks, it won't be clean, it'll be loud and messy and irreversible. So don't relax and don't click away thinking you've got the story, because this didn't resolve anything, it exposed it, and exposed things don't heal quietly. They fester, and as long as money keeps whispering louder than caution, this situation stays volatile. And I'm not convinced the next update is about a fight at all, because the real explosion might be about accountability, and that's the one nobody's ready for yet.